I feel like it's weird that we talk about Ohio as often as we do. I would not have expected Ohio to be the place where we're getting a lot of Republican sentiments, though. But with the abortion rights and trans rights, there's a lot happening in Ohio right now. More presidents from Ohio than any other state. Troublesome. Amongst the numerous ways that Republicans in this country are trying to usurp democracy, one of the things that they have just done is basically use a weird little loophole to deny a trans person the opportunity to be on the ballot. So not only are they restricting voting access and all this kind of stuff, but you also, if you're trans, they will find a loophole to keep you from being on the ballot at all. One of the things that trans people have to struggle a lot with is getting their name changed, and not only getting our name changed, but then dealing with all the consequences of such. You know, like, if I change my name, will I be able to get this like payout from this 401k at a previous job? Or like, you know, if I change my name, how am I going to deal with my credit cards that are all in a different name? You know, there's a lot of stuff that we already face issues with, and there are trans people out there who have been denied access to their bank account because their name didn't match their appearance or something like that, you know? Or the name wasn't the same as the name on the account. There's been numerous issues that trans people have run into. And in this particular instance, yeah, apparently you are supposed to include your previous name on the petition if you are petitioning to run for office in certain places in Ohio. Hey, real quick, hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Hit the subscribe button as well and turn on all notifications. And also take a moment to check out the links in the description for merchandise and Patreon, where you can find exclusive free content. So there's this trans woman named Vanessa Joy. This is her picture. She was petitioning, and she successfully got enough signatures on her petition to be able to be on the ballot in Stark County. But it turned out that they wouldn't allow her to be on it because the law requires any candidate running for office to include name changes on their petition if the name change occurred within the last 5 years. At least 2 other trans candidates could be impacted by this law, which apparently has been selectively enforced against Vanessa Joy. Like, these 2 people also previously changed their names, but they're not being messed with. And also, there is already an exception written into this law for somebody who's had a change of name for marriage reasons. Like, if you're married and you change your name, for some reason, you don't have to put that you changed your name recently. Okay. And of course, yeah, it's like, so the point of a rule like this, I think, is so that if you did something in your past that might impact whether people would vote for you, that they want to know whether you've changed your name. 5 years is a long time. Yeah, it's like, it's a long time, but also if you did something messed up 20 years ago and you changed your name, like maybe you murdered someone and then you changed your name and it's been 20 years, like you're not required to report that. You know, it's like, I'm just saying that it's a silly standard. Like, on some level, it kind of makes sense. You don't want people to be able to just escape their bad pasts by just deciding to, I identify as someone else, basically. Like, I identify as a different person. But in the case of trans people, obviously, it's really toxic and harmful for us to have to state our dead names, you know, especially for a political candidate. For a trans person, having their dead name published is just inviting attack and criticism from various conservatives. Like, it's only going to be harmful. And of course, they want to dead name trans people. So this trans woman had no primary challenger, which means that she was going to be automatically the candidate for that district. Like, she wasn't running against another Democrat to get the nomination. She would have just automatically been in that spot. So now, I don't know if they just don't have another Democrat running for that spot. The previous office holder, Representative Reggie Stoltzfus, announced a run for Congress, leaving the office vacant. Additionally, you know, some people might say, well, you can just write her name in. Well, you're not allowed to do a write-in campaign if your petition was disqualified. Apparently, Joy, when asked about this decision, tells Aaron in the morning that there was no information that such a signature was required. The 33-page candidacy guide put out by the Secretary of State does not list any such requirement, and listed on the Stark County website, there is no such information. The candidacy petition form does not even have any space for listing an old name either. So here's the form. I, Vanessa Joy, the undersigned, hereby declare under penalty of election falsification, blah, blah, blah. If they expect you to disclose your previous name, they need to have it on the form. They literally don't even have a form. Where are you supposed to just, I, Vanessa Joy, comma, write it up here, comma, formerly known as blankety blank. You can't say, oh, that's the law, and then literally not even provide a place to write a former name. And of course, it would out her putting the dead name. I don't really think that she's stealth or trying to be stealth. I'm not sure. But if she were stealth, then she would need to disclose that she's trans in a situation where maybe she didn't want to. Yeah, the hoops that we have to jump through are just crazy. And yeah, the other thing is like, why are there are other trans candidates in the state of Ohio running currently who apparently they're just choosing not to enforce this on them. There's basically no recourse for her at this point, as far as I know. So for her next steps, she says, I'm still exploring options, but my hope is that I can get legal representation to challenge the wording of this law and make it more inclusive to trans folks. The law already has an exception for changing names via marriage and for people who have already notified voters of the name change on previous petitions. Like, there's no reason to not have an exception for trans people unless you specifically want to prevent trans people from being public servants, which I guess they kind of do. Kind of makes your given name feel like a serial number. It's, yeah, you're marked with it. You can't get away from it. It's not even about endangerment. It's fundamentally anti-democratic to only enforce specific laws on people the Democrats don't like. Yeah, like this trans woman has had her petition denied, but other petitions have been allowed because, just because the bureaucratic flexibility is definitely problematic. It's so frustrating, too, to change your name or to change your legal sex and then still be required to put that on forms. I can never fully change my legal sex on my birth certificate because I was born in Mississippi. High five, I live in Kansas, and they briefly made it so where we could change our birth certificates, but they did just change it recently so that you can't change your legal sex on your birth certificate. It leads into a much broader conversation about the fact that we are marked, we are identified as trans in this way. And, it's not safe. If we live in a country where people are saying, oh, you're a groomer, I automatically assume that trans equals you're a child molester. There's no positive to having people know that you're trans unless you tell them first, if someone discloses that you're trans without your consent, that's part of what makes it so dangerous. Folks are not down with trans people. Army says I'm still waiting for my birth certificate to be changed. They made up a thing I hadn't filled in, even though there was no place in the original form for that information, had to send it all over again. So Army just had the same issue where they're like, oh, well, we need you to provide this specific information. And it's like, oh, well, it's not on the form. So how the fuck was I supposed to know? If they already have your social security number, they don't need your dead name. That's a good question. Is there a place for her social security number on this form? I guess when you're filing a petition to be a candidate, I guess they don't require your social security number. They need your name and your address, but I don't think that they require your social, which is interesting. Hi, thank you so much to all of my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Jamie Jam, Pasnell Infinity, Nova, Elizabeth Bartell, Sojo, Sarah A., Athiet, Kevin Young, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, Mr. Atheist, and Ella V. Nobody.